Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Beruchim Habaim. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we are on Daf Chet, Amud Bet, in the middle of the Amud, by starting the new Mishnah, Ha'av Gole Al Yedei Haben. Today's Amud is being learned, L'Schut Refuah Shelema of Sarah Bat Mina, Refuah Shelema of Binyamin Eliezer, HaKohen Ben Malka, Zivug Hagun for Gilhad ben Mordechai Ariel, healthy delivery for Talia Bad Rivka, Adam Parnasa Tzlacha for Avraham Rafael. This Amud is also sponsored for Refuah Shelema of Rachel Simcha Bad Nahid, that should have full recovery. Refuah Shelema Bezat Hashem Amen. This Amud is sponsored for the safety and security of Shira Bat Hamda, Malka Bat Shira, and this week's learnings of the Kahal is sponsored by Dayan family, Cohen family, and Shea families. That should be an ultimate schut for all of their families. Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. Okay. Continuing on the halachot of Galut, says the Mishnah, Ha'av Gole Al Yedei Haben. A father could end up going to Galut for killing, accidental killing of his son, and vice versa, Haben Gole Al Yedei Ha'av. The son could also end up going to Galut for an accidental killing of his father. Hakol Golin Al Yedei Yisrael. Everybody ends up going to Galut if they kill a Jew, which of course everybody means even someone that's not Jewish ends up going to Galut for killing a Jew, which is a very interesting comment. Now, of course, we know that a goy does not have the halachot of going to Galut. So what exactly are you coming to add when you say Hakol Golin Al Yedei Yisrael, and furthermore, Yisrael Golin Al Yedehen? If you reverse the same halacha, the Jew also will go to Galut for killing everybody else, which also indicates that even if you kill a non-Jew, oh, still go to Galut. Needs biur, needs explanations. It says in Mishnah, chutz miger toshav, outside, the exception to the rule is a ger toshav, that you don't necessarily go to Galut for killing a ger toshav. A ger toshav eno kole el al yedei ger toshav, and a ger toshav only would go to Galut by killing another ger toshav. Okay, now what's a ger toshav, by the way? A ger toshav is what we call a ger that's ochel nevelot. Still is eating treif, is not keeping necessarily the mitzvot, but he has accepted, in order to live in Eretz Yisrael, you can't be an oved avodah zarah. Not allowed to let Ovdei Avodah Zarah live in Eretz Yisrael. So a ger toshav is a ger that's not a ger tzedek, but someone that has accepted the monotheist belief of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and of course the mitzvot that he himself is obligated to do. So he's still ochel nevelot, he still is eating non-kosher, and he's living life as a righteous non-Jew, but he's allowed to live now in Eretz Yisrael. So that's a ger toshav. Says the Gemara, Ha'av Gole Al Yedei Haben. I mean, the very get-go of the Mishnah is very questionable. You're telling me that a father for killing his son is going to go to Galut? We just spent the whole Amud, twice it came up, that a father does not go to Galut for killing a son if he is trying to create a good chinuch, even though that the child, we said, is behaving well. It's always a mitzvah to do additional chinuch, and therefore the father should not really be going to Galut because doing a mitzvah. Right? This is the Gemara that came up twice in the previous daf. So says the Gemara, Ve'ha'amrat yatsa ha'av hamaket beno de gamir. Didn't we learn that the exception to the rule is a father that was disciplining a child and the child died under his hand, that disciplining a child is a mitzvah, and a mitzvah is excluded from the halachot of galut. And says the Gemara, in other words, the Gemara says, well, talking about the case that the son was learning. So it wasn't a mitzvah to hit him, because he was doing good. But the Gemara says, wait a second, you told me that even if the son is not doing anything wrong, he's learning, he's doing well, still is mitzvah to give him chinuch, right? We said the story of Shalom and his brother Adoniyahu, and what the Brisker Rav's grandson, Rav Yeshua, the Rosh Yeshiva of the Brisker Yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, said that, see, even though that Avshalom was a great kid, even though Adoniyahu was a picture frame, perfect child, and David HaMelech therefore did not give them musar, you see that at the end, that got through their head, and Adoniyahu mitnaseh lemor, ani emloch, he wanted to become the king against the wish and the will of the father and the nevuah that was given to David HaMelech by Natan HaNavi, and eventually, of course, Avshalom, it ended up in his death, and even Adoniyahu ended up in his demise, not directly, but again, he wanted to be the king so badly, he planned and he tried different ways, and Shlomo HaMelech, of course, after he became the king, who was the wisest man ever stepping on this earth, realized the plans of his brother, and Shlomo HaMelech killed Adoniyahu. So that's how Adoniyahu ended up. So the Gemara says, it's always good to have, even if you have a child that is doing pretty well, still to have a certain sense of chinuch, certain sense of hierarchy, and so it's always a good thing. So it says in Gemara, Beshulia denagari. You know what it was? It's not about learning. It's not that the father was disciplining the child about learning. It was him disciplining him in process of teaching him a trade. In other words, he was trying to teach him, let's say, give over how to be a carpenter, Shulia denagari, trying to teach him to become a carpenter, and in process of disciplining him as a teacher of carpentry, he died. So it says in Harav, wait a second, Shulia denagari chiyutahi delamde. Learning a trade is a mitzvah. One of the things that a father is obligated to teach the son is a way to support himself financially. It's one of the mitzvot of the father. Now there's also a machloket, you have to teach them how to swim for saving their life if they fall into water. But certainly you have to see to it that they learn a trade that they could support their family. It's part of the obligation of the father. So part of the obligation of the father is a mitzvah. So if you were trying to discipline him in teaching him a trade, that also is doing a mitzvah, should be excluded from going to Galut. So we are still scratching our head. What exactly is the scenario in which the father would go to Galut for accidentally causing the death of his child? Says the Gemara, the Gamir Umanuta Achariti. The case is simple. He already has a trade. He already knows how to make money. He already has learned a different livelihood skill, and now you're trying to teach him another thing. That another thing is no longer a mitzvah. He could support himself just fine, and therefore, if now accidentally he dies under the hand of the father, he would go to Galut. Fine. The second case of the Mishnah says the Gemara, Urmini. It's again a problem, because Makeh Nefesh, we learned in Braita. We learned in the Braita that Makeh Nefesh prat lemakeh aviv. When the pasuk talks about hitting someone, Makeh Nefesh, it's coming to exclude the father. That if a person hits their father, they are excluded from this pasuk. Here, the full pasuk is on the side. Livnei Yisrael v'lager toshav v'tocham tihyena shesh ha'arim ha'ele lemiklat. These are the 6 cities of refuge Lanus shama kol makeh nefesh bishgaga. That any makeh nefesh is going to go there. Now, makeh nefesh is a regular nefesh. Makeh nefesh is a stam, a regular person. Says the Braita, it's coming to exclude a son that hits his dearest family member, his father. That is excluded, that you don't go to Galut. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Kana lo kasha. Rav Kana says now the question. Ha Rabbi Shimon veha Rabbanan. One of them is Shita of Rabbi Shimon, and the other one is the Shita of Rabbanan. What's the difference? Let me explain to you a little background about a Gemara in Sanhedrin that this Gemara is referencing right now. There's a machloket in Masechet Sanhedrin and Daf Memtet Amud Bet. The Gemara there discusses from the 4 methodologies of carrying out a death penalty in Bet Din, right? We have skila, serefa, hereg, chenek. That's how we usually count it, because that's the shita of Rabbanan, from the most severe to least. So skila is the first one, is the harshest one. Serefa is the next one, which doesn't mean serefa that you burn the guy alive. It means they would have lead that would be heated up and it would be thrown into their throat. That is serefa. Then hereg, which is with saif, right? Killing with a sword, it's beheading. And chenek is the last, the least severe, the most pleasant, if you want to call it. That's how Shita of Rabbanan is. Rabbi Shimon disagrees with that. On the last 2, that you have to reverse the order of the last 2. That it's not chenek being the least, but it's hereg that's the least, and chenek is one level higher than that. Now, what's the difference? What's the connection even with this? A regular person that kills gets hereg, right? A regular person that kills a homicide, a hariga b'mezid, when a person intentionally kills someone, gets hereg, right? Now, that is not necessarily true for the father. If a person gives a chabura, a bruise to their father or their mother, they get chenek. Now, a person that kills their father, beats their father to death, chas v'shalom, that gets 2 death penalties. One for creating any bruise. Now, by the way, this becomes a very modern day question, because imagine you want to give a shot to your father, right? Can you draw blood from your father? Can you give them a shot that may make them bruise, and bleed? Not so simple, right? Even though that you are trying to help and you are trying, even that is we're talking about a she'ela in a yisur d'oraita. So this becomes a very, very serious question for treating one's parents in a medical realm. Questions should be asked in many of these in these scenarios. But a person that killed their father, they get henek for that and hereg for that. Now, that's when it becomes important to know which one is more chamor. Because if a person has 2 death penalties, how many times do we kill him?
Once.
Can you do more? No. You can only kill a person once, right? So how do you kill him?
More severely.
Kim lebedraba mine. The rule of law is that we give him the more severe of the 2. So if he has hereg and he also has chenek, all of a sudden it becomes very important to know the machloket Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim. Because according to Rabbi Shimon, you give him what? Chenek. According to Rabbanan, you give him what? Hereg. So, this is very interesting. Just to know this Gemara in Sanhedrin is very important. But what does it have to do with us? Very simple. If the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon, that the more severe of the 2 is chenek, And we know that a person that gets hereg goes to galut, because a regular homicide, right, is going to be hereg. If you, not accidentally, if you deliberately kill somebody, you get hereg, right? That everyone agrees. So hereg is a less or more severe, according to Rabbi Shimon, less severe. So for a less severe of an avera, the Torah says, if you did it accidentally, you go to galut. If you do something that had you done it b'mezid, had you done it deliberately, you would get hereg. Now, if you did it accidentally, you go to galut. But I have no idea what's going to happen if you do one notch higher. If I accidentally did a kill that had I done it deliberately, I would get not hereg, but chenek, who says I go to galut? I don't know if I go to galut. So therefore, killing a father, says the Gemara, according to Rabbi Shimon, would not go to galut. Because that's more severe. But according to Rabbanan, let's go through this again. According to Rabbanan, if someone, chas v'shalom, killed their father, right? We're not talking about accidental, a deliberate kill. What would be their halacha? Well, they get chenek, and they also get hereg. That's across the board, right? Which one would we give them? According to Rabbanan?
Hereg.
Hereg! Because that's the more severe of the two. According to Rabbanan, is skila, serefa, hereg, chenek. So hereg and chenek, you give them the more severe, which is hereg, which is identical with a punishment of a regular homicide. So therefore, there is no difference between a regular person and the father when it comes to a deliberate kill, and therefore, there's no room to differentiate that by an accidental shgaga, they should not go to galut. And that's what the Gemara says. Gemara says it will depend on machloket that we had back in Masechet Sanhedrin, Daf Mem Tet, of Rabbi Shimon and Rabbanan. Now everyone understands how this is, when you know Shas, everything is connected, right? And this is one of them, says the Gemara. Rabbi Shimon, de amar chenek chamur misayif. Rabbi Shimon, who holds chenek, is more severe than saif, than sword, which is hereg. Nitna lekapara. So then shigagat saif nitna lekapara. Only an accidental kill that would get saif, which is a lesser one, it gets kapara. Shgagat chenek, but a shgaga, an accidental kill of an act that would get chenek, had it been deliberate, lo nitna lekapara. That does not, it's a higher level of offense, and therefore it's not going to be atoned by going to galut. You don't get kapara for that because it's a higher level of offense. You don't go to galut. Fine. But the Rabbanan, according to Chachamim, the Amri Saif, Chamur Michenek, according to Chachamim, who they hold Herek, Saif, is more severe than Chenek, then, of course, a father would be the same as any other homicide if it would be deliberate, and therefore, Horeg Aviv Beshogeg Shigigat Saifu will give him, if he would be deliberate, it will be getting saif, it would get hereg, and therefore this is shigigat saif. This is a shgaga, an accidental case of a category of saif, a category of hereg, and therefore it will be equivalent to any other kill. Says the Gemara, v'shigigat saif nitana lekapara. We already know that a shgaga of saif goes to galut and gets kapara. So that's one answer to the question. So remember what happened over here, right? We have a braita that says the father, if a son kills a father, you don't go to galut. And then we have a Mishnah. Our Mishnah says the son goes to galut for the father, killing a father. It's like a head-on collision. So the first teretz of the Gemara is no problem. It's not a stira. One is our Mishnah is Rabbanan, as expected, right? Therefore, son would go to Galut. The Braita is Rabbi Shimon that holds Saif is less severe than Chenek, and therefore the son that killed the father would not go to Galut. Rava Amar Prat lo oseh chabura be'aviv. Rava says, nah, that's not talking. That pasuk that we just read is not talking about killing a father. It's talking about making a bruise to your father. And it's coming to teach you that if a person creates a black and blue mark on their father, they don't go to Galut. Why would you think that bruising your father would end up in Galut? Very simple. What happens if you deliberately make a black and blue mark on your father? Rahman al-Islam. You get chenek. The guy gets a mitat bedin. He'll be put to death. So I would have thought, just like a person that killed their father gets a death penalty, and therefore if you do it b'shgaga, you go to galut. Here also, any case that had you done it b'mezid, had you done it deliberately, you would get killed. If you do it not deliberately, if you do it b'shogeg, you go to galut. So here also should be the same thing. What difference does it make if he killed his father that gets a death penalty, or he bruised his father that gets a different death penalty? Both of them should be that if you did it b'shgaga, if you did it accidentally, you should go to galut. That would have been the mindset. Right? It makes a lot of sense. Therefore, says Rava, I need a pasuk to come and tell me no. It's only when you kill that you go to galut. By bruising, even though that it's a level of, it's a severity of a death penalty, had you done it b'mezid, over here b'shogeg you don't go to galut. Says, let's read it together. Rav Amar Prada oseh chabura ba'aviv b'shogeg sakadat chamina. I would have thought kevan de b'mezid bar ktalahu, that had he done it b'mezid, if he did it deliberately, he would get killed. B'shogeg nami ligli, by accidental bruising, you should go to galut as well. Kamash malan. It's coming to teach you that no, that the galut is only for ending someone's life, is not for bruising someone. Hakol golin alei Yisrael. Let's do one more piece over here. This that we said everybody goes to galut for killing a Jew. Right? Says what? Hakol golin alei Yisrael. Everyone goes to galut alei Yisrael. La'tuyemai. What exactly? Who are you? I know a Jew goes to galut for a Jew. That I know. Right? I know that a goy doesn't go to galut for a Jew. So what exactly are you adding? Says the Gemara, la'tuye evet vekuti. There are two categories that are like a middle ground. An eved is like almost a Jew. An eved is chayav to do all the mitzvot that the woman is chayav to do. Right? All of the don't do's and half of the do's. All the ones that are not. Mitzvah asashas magrama, and eved is chayav to do. He gets a brit milah, he has to accept the mitzvot. He's a Jew. If you free your eved, he's a full-fledged Jew. Full-fledged Jew. If you write in a shtar, say you've been very good, and we need a minyan over here. We have 9 people. We need a 10th. Yeah, he became a full Jew. Now you can count him as minyan, right? So eved is this middle ground, and also a kuti. Kutim, they became gerim, but they were questionable gerim. They were, not so pashut. So says the Gemara evet vekuti. Tanina, the Gemara says, really? That's very interesting, because Tanina la the Tanna Rabbanan. This would be a Mishnah mentioning something that we explicitly learned in a Braita. What's the Braita? Evet vekuti gole veloke alidei Yisrael, veYisrael gole veloke alidei kuti ve'eved. The Braita says black on white that an evet and a kuti gets galut for killing a Jew gets galut for killing a eved or kuti, and they also get lashes for each other, right? So Gemara is going to ask now, where is the lashes part? I understand the kill and the galut part. So says the Gemara, Bishlama, I understand, says the Gemara, I could deal with eved vekuti golali de Israel. I could understand the scenario that eved and a kuti goes to galut for killing a Jew. And also I could understand an Eved and Kuti getting lashes for a Jew. What's the case? Gole de katle. The case of Galut is if an Eved or Kuti killed a Jew, it goes to Galut. Fine, I could deal with that. Veloke de latye. And a case of lashes would be if he cursed him with name of Hashem. If an Eved curses a Jew, or a Kuti curses a Jew with the name of Hashem, he gets lashes, right? You're not allowed to curse a Jew. We have to be careful with this, right? So it says, the Gemara, Yisrael, but the second part of a Jew getting lashes and going to Galut, I have a problem. Not with the Galut part of it. Galut part of it I'm good with. Bishlama gole de katle. I understand why you would go to Galut. If you kill an Eved, if you kill a Kuti, you go to Galut. That's for sure. Ela loke amai. But how would you get lashes? Says the Gemara, the latye. You want to say the case of cursing? No, you can't. Because it says, V'nasi be'amecha lo taor. The pasuk of the prohibition against cursing is Nasi be'amecha lo taor. You can't curse one of the people who does exactly what you do. Be'amecha is be'oseh ma'aseh amecha. Someone that does exactly like Eved does not. It's not oseh ma'aseh amecha. It's patur from Allah. A Kuti is not oseh ma'aseh amecha. So it says the Gemara, Rav Acha Bar Yaakov. Rav Acha Bar Yaakov said no, it's a different case. You know what the case of lashes malkut is? Sheheit bo behuzam. You gave testimony against the goy, you get nothing. There's no hazama begoy. But if you testified against an Eved or testified against the Kuti, and then you became Edim Zomemim, then if you were trying to get lashes, you will get lashes. Right? So that's the case. Says the Gemara, the Kvate, Gabe Eved, we've done 2 more lines. The Kvate, Gabe Eved, Sheheit bo behuzam, Eved bar edutu. The answer says that can't be the case either, because it has to, whatever the case is, has to be reversible. Has to be reversible. And this is not reversible, because you can't have an Eved and a Kuti that comes to Betin to testify. They're not kasher le'edut. An Eved is not kasher le'edut, and a Kuti is not kasher le'edut. So that can be the case. Ela amar Rav Acha bered Rav Ika hacha b'maya skinan kigon shehikau haka'a she'em b'shaveh peruta. We're talking about the case that you hit someone a beating that is not damageful shaveh peruta. If you hit someone and if the damage is not a shaveh peruta that you could actually pay, then you get malkut. The Amar Rav Ami, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, hikau hakashem bo shaveh peruta loke. If you hit someone in a case that can't be paid monetarily, you get a set of malkut and velo makshinan haka'a liklala. And you don't have this whole thing of klala because you don't exclude them. It's not nasi be'amecha lo ta'or. You don't have any exclusion for Eved and Kuti, and therefore, even if you hit a Kuti, you hit an Eved, haka'ashim bo shaveh peruta, whether you did it to them, you get malkut. Whether they did it to you, they get malkut as well. So that is the case of the Braita. By 2 dots, we'll continue this in the days to come.